Night had fallen. In Greek, it's in the nix. It was night. That verse is something which, in 3 words, sums up the backdrop to the whole of this fourth gospel. As you remember, in the beginning it starts off with that battle between light and darkness. The prologue has this cosmic element in it, and the Passion in St. John is the outworking of that cosmic battle. There are always 2 levels in John, the immediate and then the meaning. And we notice how, coupled with this narration of the taking of this sop, as it used to be called, this drop of bread in the chalice, or in the cup, the side dish actually, that the Lord was using, paropside, there was, as it were, something also cosmic. A part of that darkness entered into him. Shatan, the word used by John here, is a Hebrew word, and it means adversary, enemy. And the enemy then gets into Judas. But it happens in the context of that light. And after it's happened, we have this high tone. The Lord immediately goes into Trinitarian language, elevating the whole event to a different plane. Now has the Son of Man been not conquered, not even attacked, but glorified. So we have this glory, this brilliance there coming into this dark night. And in him God has been glorified. And on it goes in that high tone. And in John, at the cosmic moment of expiring, we have precisely a king deciding the moment, yielding up, commanding that moment even, and in full possession, dying in majesty. He's never conquered. John is the only one of the 4 who does not give a direct account of the institution of the Blessed Sacrament. But what does he have? He is the only one who has any theology on the matter. The 6th chapter. Again, high language, from which he does not back down at all, even when he starts to be railed and attacked. If you do not eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Again, when it comes to Pilate and the Jews, that same majesty is there, and he does not back down. You have said it. Now that's, again, a short saying which invites crucifixion. He's not backing down, and he's using in John, especially in John, that language which they understand. Quite a few times in these last days we've heard the expression, I am he. It's a form of Yahweh, I am. He is saying, I am, and they got the message. And immediately they pick up stones. Why? Blasphemy. And Pilate, who was not a Jew, somehow himself is struck by this. Who are you? Where are you from? And he does not want to get involved with their game. In fact, we are told he knew it was from envy that they handed him over. Night had fallen. Now, let's jump to our time. It's fairly recent, the new night of this land. It was there when Patrick arrived. It was hugely pagan, and that meant, therefore, they had harnessed the forces out there, which were partly demonic. And he, with divine help, had conquered that darkness. And he, in his confessions, actually admits that he's puzzled, amazed at the power that is around him, as though he weren't doing it alone. In our day, we observe something that also can make us be puzzled and amazed. It's as though some other force of a sinister order this time is doing more than just men. in reversing that. Because if in a short time we can get to the norms that are being pumped at the whole of this Christian land by a small number of people, being puppeted without knowing it by sinister forces, it means that we are right now engaged in a cosmic battle of similar dimensions. And few Christians seem to be aware of it. The proof is that they listen to these things and give them a platform for many hours. And actually, if you listen to what they're saying, after a while, they are successfully conditioned. Night had fallen. With regard to the way in which Satan loves the dark, any priest will know that there are reasons for that. The night is the time when he has great freedom. But the night also has become darker. The new way in which the night is all lit up is something which needs to be looked at. People now very rarely encounter stillness. The night has been lost. Those who have been in the country all their life and have lived in the simple agricultural life know a bit of it still. But any area where in practice there is no silence at all during 24 hours is of a different order. But then something else in recent years has crept in. It's this fact that in the civilized world by now the night is not the night. It's the night where all starts to happen. Every civilized human being now in our world has access to all that is out there in the night, just in the privacy of his room. And this is something which again they do not realize to be entirely what it is, not just neutral. Indeed, a child now hardly born is kept quiet with a tiny little screen. So he is educated to that norm. And children now very quickly become quite proficient in handling this and are very quick at getting through all that might want to stop them from getting through into interesting things out there in this invisible and virtual and for them very real sphere. Children very early on are getting into what normally until these last years was reserved to professionals. Some form of evil in the form of nudity and pornographic material, by now ever more easily available to young people who are not slow in learning how to show each other how to get on to things. In Rome, I was living, when still an Norbertine, in the Little Aventine area, which was a great area for prostitution, a red light area, and it was a posh area for it, where they had prostitutes who could actually select their candidates. They were young, and it was known for that. And they'd be right in front of our house, and the night life would start just as we were coming back from the last lectures of the day, when it was hardly dark, and on it would go into the heart of the night. And one day the rector came out at breakfast with one of the prostitutes has died, and he thought it was murder. She was the Colombian, who was 32 years of age, and we discovered later that it was actually probably through heart failure, but perhaps drug-related. And I think the following day they found a bouquet of flowers where her body had laid, which was quite interesting. But these were not just human garbage. They were immortal gems like anyone else. But that was the night in Rome. All night that was going on. And it's going on in all our big cities. But now even young people can have access to the equivalent in the privacy of their room, because there's a whole dark world of porno for sale, people for sale actually, all on the virtual, which can lead also to the real. All that also sometimes accessible to people who perhaps are married, and therefore if they get involved in it, even virtually, are already getting into the realm of adulterous relationships, because they're watching things, people, bodies that are not theirs, when they're actually consecrated to one and only one person until that person dies. It's, I say, virtual adultery. And it's more frequent than one realizes. Indeed, one has to be careful now what one looks at even on ordinary television, because not to realize that to expose oneself willingly and passively to anything that comes up is potentially in causa, in the cause, to intake all that's going on out there with regard to nudity, which leaves images in the mind, and virtual infidelity in the heart. These are things which are hardly ever faced, even in confession, because it's so normal. So what has happened? The night has come right into our light. But there is also something more subtle. It's the effect of losing the virginity of silence at all. Because if one is there in the heart of the night, as the night goes on towards midnight and beyond, still fidgeting either at the television or now at the internet, because hour goes into hour, then what has happened? The interior life has gone also into that screen by the energy demanded, by concentration, where one doesn't even realize where time is going, it just goes and has gone. And also by the fact that hence there is no possibility whatsoever of having that precious moment where genuinely the church would need to have intimacy. I mean, on the level of the church's life, where has the early morn gone? That, classically, for 2,000 years, was the time when Christian souls would dedicate solid moments of uncluttered silence and intimacy. Mass at the morning was always there, and not one but many on the Catholic planet, until fairly recently, when bit by bit the morning went and one gets up and goes to work. Therefore, hugely speaking, the interior life of Christians, and therefore the church itself, if you multiply it, is weakened. It's not about a religion, our faith, so much as about a relationship. And a relationship not cared for quickly becomes weakened. Other centers of attention come. When in Naples, Pope Francis departed from his text and addressed the consecrated souls he had with him, nuns and seminarians, and he said this to the seminarians, many of them before him in the cathedral: if Jesus Christ is not the center of your life, delay ordination a little. And he repeated it, looking straight at them. If Jesus Christ is not the center of your life, delay ordination a little. Because he knew that if that's not there, the rest is very fragile. And after he'd said that, the Cardinal, Archbishop of Naples, got hold of the reliquary of St. Januarius, and held it up for veneration, and out of the blue it liquefied unexpectedly. It wasn't supposed to at all that day. Obviously, St. Januarius was very happy to hear that message and to have Pope Francis there. Relationship then, the very bit that was not there in Judas, who had the same grace, actually ordination in this Last Supper as the others, and could have gone either way. Relationship was not there. What happened? The one who had the relationship more than the others perhaps, John, the young one, reclining on his bosom, he was the one who was asked by St. Peter to ask who it was. And that gives us that scene of intimacy which we have here at the altar, and in particular this week, for instance, at Holy Thursday, where we're asked to keep the Lord company for an hour, the first holy hour. That scene is very, very mystical. In fact, as it happens, Sister Martha, who helped me to get the house together when I came to the Hermitage, she was there for 3 weeks. She was also an artist, and she would put with chalk all over the house little frescoes, and in the little refectory I have, she has put the Last Supper, and she's portrayed that scene perfectly with the intimacy of John reclining on the breast of Jesus, hinting that that was what I was to do evermore. And there's a big Sacred Heart in the body of the Lord. And then Judas, dark and sinister, switched off from grace, looking the other way, doing his own thing. When it comes to Good Friday, it's also a moment where we need to ask ourselves, when we hear that word, it is accomplished, if I were to die right now, could I say the same? That it will happen is beyond doubt. There will be a moment when all our moments run out. And the question is, what should I have done by then? People mentally don't actually think of that. They presume that time will go on. It's rather like an insurance policy not kept up. We can't take the risk of not being always ready to go. Some years ago, there was a mini precursor of the present Obamacare in America. It was when Bill Clinton was president, and they were organizing some kind of comprehensive insurance because they realized that this problem was big with regard to health care. And they were trying to get some system that would protect everyone from everything. And there was a lot of talk about it. And one day, at prime viewing time, the president himself, no less, Bill Clinton, appeared on the television before the whole nation, dressed as a newlywed, lying on the divan, the sofa, admiring his new bride, Hillary, who was of course younger in those days anyway, and she had her hair down to her shoulders and was dressed as a newlywed. And she was washing the dishes there with her back to him, but they were talking about this project. And at a certain point she turned round to him and said, "Honey, does this mean that with this comprehensive insurance, we're going to die?" We're all going to die, my friends, and there's no comprehensive insurance.
In that most fearful hour, that I may fight befriended, and seeing my last strife, to me thine arms extended, upon the cross of thine.
Three sonnets written in Rome while living in the red light area where we were in the Generalate, which was the Norbertine College as well. The prostitutes. Oh, lonely ones, who walk with many men into a heat so cold that naught can melt or touch or reach aught in the hidden den of hard iniquity, of hearts unfelt, amid the feel of all.
O little ones, much used to fill with streams of unthought sense, where truth with gesture copulated runs no more. A nearness holds a distance dense. Where do you lie when you must lie alone, with thoughts unpierced, with moments not yet sold to gazes all of greed that feed a stone? Again, again, in this familiar hold. And do you feel, when held by oft a clutch, for but a little meaning in a touch? Murder? One of the prostitutes was murdered last night near the house, said the rector. When there is darkness, man moves not alone, but 'neath the moon a hand unseen draws on to acts of deeper black, wherein the groan of unprepared pain is quickly gone into the great unknown, where none shall see or hear or touch again what stirs no more the hungered body and the gilded plea for favours, where shared favours went before. O sadness doubly deep, to peep at these our flesh and blood, that open where no love can enter in, or with a touch appease the gaping of the all that man can move. This is to sigh that some can give too much, for more can travel 'neath a gentler touch. Bouquet amid condoms. It seems that the 32-year-old Colombian actually died of a heart attack, possibly drug-related. There was a bouquet this morning where her body had been. A flower for but a little soul that went without a flurry to the hidden land, whence all have come with numbered moments lent by hands unseen. O last, O longest stand into the night, wherein a heavy work is done beneath the moon. Too soon the end of this great task unfinished did here lurk, and this last act of wanting fast unbend. Oh, little while that held a long, long age, short moments that the aeons opened wide. What chapters of what faults lie on this page, now closed forever, where long memories hide? What little child lies now where thou dost lie, alone, alone, beneath a lonely sky?